Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of two autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support. Welcome to episode 54. This is long awaited for you. So let's dive right into this because I know you're going to be really fired up on this. It's a topic about resiliency, one of my favorite strategies. And I think when we talked about it and we broke it down, there was key components in what I truly mean by resiliency and what the general knowledge for outsiders mean by resiliency. So let's start off with the definition. Kimberly?
Yeah, I'm getting really tired of hearing that autistic people need to be more resilient. Autistic people are probably the most resilient people on the planet. Okay, let's definition. Yeah, let's start there before I go completely off.
Yeah.
Resiliency is, in simple terms, it's just your ability to be able to bounce back from a negative experience.
Yes. And when you say autistic people are ones who are the most resilient, I have to agree with you on that. Any neurodivergent person is often experiencing rejection in an ableist world on a daily basis. So their ability to bounce back from situations is far greater than a neurotypical person. So I do agree with you on that. So I think we need to break down what it is, the true meaning of resiliency, and what the true meaning of desensitization is, which often get confused as one and the same.
Yes. And I get a hang up on when people use the wrong words when they mean something, right? Like,
yes,
word accuracy is important. So I've got 4 components to resiliency, and that's emotional regulation, optimism, having a support network, and flexibility. And I'd like to go over those briefly to explain why resiliency is difficult for autistic people, because all of those 4 things, getting those things in place to be resilient, is difficult. We know that resiliency is important. So let's just start there, because I'm ready to fly off the handle. So I'm just trying to keep to my list. Resiliency is important because psychological resiliency acts as protection from the effects of negative events.
Yes.
So should we work on our resiliency? Yes. Everyone, regardless of their neurotype, should have some resiliency in life.
And this is not just something that you pick up a book and you read and you master a singular task in this. This is a lifelong process. And I think that's where a lot of people fail to remember that this is a life marathon. This is not a sprint to the finish line. So I think that is one of the key components in which I focus on as well.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the entire picture before we start just throwing around negative experiences and demanding that autistic people get over it. Let's do our key components here.
All right.
If the key components are not in place before you introduce negative experiences, it's going to create trauma, not build resilience. And we talk about the impact of stress on the autistic brain. I'll put a link to that. So putting those key components in place for resiliency can in itself be an overwhelmingly negative experience. Let's look at emotional regulation. Autistic individuals have a lot of factors which affect our ability to regulate our emotions. And we've talked all about these. That's heightened sensory sensitivities and sensory processing differences, alexithymia, so difficulty identifying, describing our emotions, executive functioning difficulties, social communication and social interaction differences, the need for sameness and routine. All of these things are happening all of the time.
Yes, they are.
So it's kind of impressive that we're ever emotionally regulated ever. Are
I
there
think what I see when I see that, and what for me, when I know when I need to intervene is when I see those peaks happening. Yeah, if your emotional situation is going in, in lovely little waves over there, I allow a person to navigate them that's themselves, because it gives them a far better sense of awareness of where they are on that scale. But when I start to see that peak happening, that's when I step in with and scaffold that learning and that intervention. But until then, I take a step back and just to say, I'm here if you need me, but I will never step in unless I see those really on that trajectory of an upward, of going, oh, we're going heading towards a direction that we really don't want to go into. But there you go.
and that is the essence of being a good support person, is allowing someone to navigate, not uh, and but not letting them get so overstimulated or overwhelmed that they're headed towards a meltdown or a shutdown.
Yeah, I think the difference between navigating and providing direction, excuse me, is when you constantly provide direction, now you're providing prompt dependency, and you're not building those key skills in order to be far more effective at being resilient while using all of your other components. So,
Yeah, there are strategies to help maintain emotional regulation, and like you said, some of those can be taught. You can put accommodations in place to help reduce dysregulation. You can use de-stressing techniques, and it is an important component to work on for sure. So
yeah.
the next one, optimism. It is kind of difficult to be optimistic when you live in a world that is not built for you. And you're battling all of this sensory input and social disconnect every day. Can you practice getting better at being optimistic? Yes, I've done it. Doesn't look like I'm optimistic today because I'm a bit ranty, but I've done it. I was very, very pessimistic and jaded as a teenager and into my early 20s. But when I went to university, I made a concerted effort to try to be more positive, because I watched people. I looked at people and I thought, how are they so happy? And I wanted that. So I actively worked towards having a more positive outlook. And what I did was, when I found myself having negative thoughts, which was often,
Mm-hmm.
I would stop and I would look for a single positive, just one, and it didn't matter how small it was compared to the rest of the negativity that was floating around in my head. And over time, that became more reflexive. So I didn't have to stop and think about it all the time. It became a pattern of thinking, to the point where I didn't know I was doing it.
Absolutely. And that is starting to really dive into what I always keep saying, that mindfulness approach. That is a perfect example of starting to implement that mindful approach, which then becomes now, as you say, muscle memory. You don't even know you're doing it, right? Which is amazing, because it gives you that next step to and scaffolding, you know, you're learning into becoming and creating far better resiliency skills.
And having a positive mindset is just good for your overall mental health and your physical health.
It is. Yeah.
So I never really thought that I had put that into place, because it was so gradual, until uh, maybe 15 years ago. I had Alex at an allergist appointment. And the allergist was frustrated because she was working on the computer and she had just gotten back from vacation, and she had forgotten how to work the computer program, basically. And she was getting quite frustrated about it. And she said, "Oh, I've just got back from vacation and now I can't remember how to do this." And I said, "Well, that's kind of a good thing, because it means that while you're on vacation, you actually let go of work, which is the point." And she stopped dead, and she turned and she looked at me and she said, "Are you always this positive?" And I said, "Well, it's either that or drugs and alcohol," because it's a joke. But you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like Hey, I've got lots of reasons to be negative in a day, but I choose to be different. I'm choosing to see a positive. But I didn't have to think about that. I honestly thought in my out loud, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Like, really, if you've been away and you've forgotten how to do something, it means you really let go.
Yeah. So, which is amazing. You scaffolded that into your everyday learning. And here you are, you're always looking for that positive. Much like me, I always look for the silver lining in things, right? So,
That's not to say I don't have negative thoughts. Yes, of course I do.
yeah, we all do,
But I
right?
choose to focus on the positive thoughts. It's not that I never, I'm still realistic, very realistic. So I still see things very realistically. So if something is bad, I understand. I'm not ignoring it and focusing on a positive thing, but I'm also finding a positive while I'm sorting through the mess.
Yep. Mindfulness. I love it.
The next thing is having a support network, which is also kind of problematic because part of the criteria for being autistic is having difficulties in social communication and social interaction. So, being ostracized, bullied, and victimized makes putting together a social network a little bit challenging.
It is. And this is when the key components of having that small group of people that you can rely on and connect with on a far deeper level, and who get you, right? And who are there to say, kind of help you understand a process rather than tell you the next step to take in the process. So to me, that social network is absolutely vital in creating a far stronger resiliency pattern.
I have built a support network, but that took probably a lot longer than it does for neurotypical people because I didn't have a network until maybe my late 30s, early 40s. And that seemed like a long time to go without one. And like I had people, I had individuals, but I didn't have like a lot of them. I maybe had a couple, and now I feel like I have enough. Like I have a few, and that's just well, I have more than a few. A few is three, uh, but I have more now, and I think you need different people to have different viewpoints, and they perform different functions for you in your friendships. So it's important to have a little bit of diversity. I think. Of course, I'm pretty sure they all have ADHD.
Okay, if you say so. Um, it is. You're right, because that's going to give you a holistic view in life, right? It's going to give you far more realistic view. It's going to give you the opportunity to view things from a certain point that you never thought was possible. So that is a great strategy to put into place um, in order to be able to create far better resiliency.
I really only was able to develop a support network because of my kids, because I met all of these amazing people on the way, on the journey of advocating for my kids. I don't know that I could have found that without being a parent because I find that I've met people with like mindsets along the way. And I think it might be more difficult to just find.
Yeah, so basically, Peter and Alex have been those doors for you into letting what you needed to come into your world at the right time, in the right situation, to be able to help scaffold every aspect of your life.
Yeah. So the last
Okay.
key component,
All
flexibility.
right.
Now, flexibility to me is a little bit different in that I think that this really needs to start happening at a young age when the demands of life are low and you have a lot of support.
I could not agree with you anymore. Like this is always one of my arch nemesis, is when people do not start implementing that at a young age, because at a younger age you're far more apt to go with it you're apt to be willing to view other possibilities. You're not so set in your mind. Your mindset is not set, must I say. So th- yeah, and I always say to people, deal with the behavior when they're two and not 6 for 2 when you cannot.
When you're two, you haven't had all of those negative experiences that compound over the years. So you haven't those traumas and that rejection has not been built up yet. You still have a lot of support and an openness and a flexibility, and kids are made out of what, elastic and magic. Like they're just,
Yeah.
and their brains are not developed yet.
And this is where my little rant is, don't make excuses for them. Like you above all have taught me autism is not the reason for bad manners. It's a reason for unusual manners and unusual behavior, but not bad behavior. And you have stuck with that motto, and you are reaping the rewards of laying that foundation right from the word go.
Yeah, I know that bad behavior is subjective and people are going to misconstrue that because unusual behavior might look like bad behavior to other people, but I don't think autistic traits are bad traits. I think they can be unusual. But what I consider to be bad behavior is harming others and harming yourself. And I know that there are a lot of autistic people that have spoken and we've received comments on it that they hurt themselves as adults. They hurt themselves. And I think that is a maladaptive behavior. I don't think that pain should be necessary in your life, in like especially self-inflicted pain. So if you are
Yeah.
doing that to regulate yourself because your self-regulation is at the point where you have to do that in order to balance it out, I think there must be a better way. There must be a healthier mechanism for that. So bad is probably not the right word, but it's the word that I keep using with neurotypical people to get them to understand it. But the idea is that I don't think that autistic traits are bad traits. But I do believe that there are poor manners, which it's if harm and but also going up into someone's personal space and getting right in there. You can teach a child that, hey, you don't need to be right in someone's face when you're speaking to them. Let's back that up a little bit. That's not necessary. So just because that is their trait
Preferred.
that they prefer to do doesn't
Yeah.
mean that that's okay.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like so
it's
there's
your rights stop where my rights begin, right? And it's a
exactly.
fine line. It's a dance. It's a constant state of movement, and it's hard to teach. It's hard to explicitly teach that, but practicing those skills on a daily basis is what's going to set it as muscle memory and the foundation for better understanding and better growth.
Yeah, autism is is definitely something that we need to be more accepting of and understanding, but that doesn't mean that it gives you carte blanche to do whatever you want and say, hey, I'm autistic, I can do whatever I want. No, no. We've talked about, I'm not going to go into this because we have
Okay,
talked about
let's.
this in accommodations because I could go off on that too. All right, so increasing flexibility, that is where your desensitization techniques come in. And this is where people get confused. So desensitization is when you're stretching a person just outside their comfort zone in those really small increments. In
Yes, and
order to so desensitization reduces a person's sensitivity to a stimulus. Resiliency is bouncing back from a negative experience.
yeah, and it's taking all of the strategies and the components we have just been talking about and putting it together to create resiliency. Desensitization needs to be done in a very consistent and structured process so you do not cause PTSD. And it is in micro doses so that the person who is being exposed to this kind of realizes it's happening, but not to the point that they become so distressed about it.
I'm going to give an example because I think examples are how people understand.
Yep.
I'm going to
Go for it.
use you as an example. You're going to love it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Go for it.
So, an example would be if I throw a snake at you, let's keep in mind here that Tessa does not like snakes.
Yeah. You're on your own, people. I
Okay.
am out of there quicker than a flash. Yep.
So, if I throw a snake at you, that's a negative experience. Resiliency is how quickly you get over the snake to the face.
Yeah.
Desensitization is slowly introducing the snake to you until you're no longer afraid of it.
Which will never happen. But that's okay.
If you chose to work on it, if you
Yeah.
chose to be desensitized to it,
I live in North America. I don't need to be desensitized to it. I was traumatized by it as a youngster well enough.
exactly.
So
And
thank you.
that is the part that I'm talking about resiliency that pisses me off. Because like you just said, you say, I don't need to work on this. And you're right. You're an adult. You don't need to work on it. So no one should be telling me at this point in my life that I need to be more resilient. I've made it this far because I'm resilient. I've been through all of that crap and come out the other side because I'm resilient. So when someone comes along and says, "Oh, Kim, I know you like your routines, but you need to work on being more flexible," the answer is no, I don't. That's not helpful. That's condescending. That's infantilizing. And it's dismissive. I am building a system in order to minimize a lifetime of discomfort and pain. The fact that I get out of bed every day shows my resiliency. Now, if I get to a place where everything is running smoothly and I feel like I want to desensitize myself, I want to stretch myself, I will decide to do that, not somebody else. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. You're very welcome. And I think also sometimes people forget that life throws you a curve, right? You might have a routine, but you might wake up that day and one of the kids is sick or something happens where that routine is taken way out of place and you have to address the issue at hand. So it's not that you have to have it exactly the same way every single time. You're not going to say, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to attend to this emergency or this situation because it's not part of my routine. That's not what you're saying. You will deal with the situation, even though it is not within your routine, but it's going to cause you a lot of stress. And all of the strategies that you have put into place is going to help that resiliency component kick into place and bring you back once the situation is over and help you regulate a lot quicker than other people would have.
When my routine gets disrupted, it takes me time to recover, not because I'm not resilient, but because the demands of life are so high all the time that I don't have anything left over in the tank to deal with the dysregulation that comes with a disruption in routine. I'm already resilient. I still get up, I still do all the things, I still take care of it, but I'm going to need more downtime because of a disruption in routine. So if someone says, "Hey, do you want to get together?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I'm going to take the next 2 weeks, every opportunity I get, which is not a lot, to bring myself back to a state of emotional regulation because my routine is screwed right now."
Yeah. Which kind of is one of the strategies that I would say is really effective is stress management techniques, right? Um, and it is as simple as saying, hey, I'm going to take time out each and every day to do what I need to do. I need that downtime in order to slowly start building up that reserve tank again. So that is, in essence, one part of stress management. There's a lot of other aspects of it, and we're happy to talk about, and I think we have in our previous episodes about dealing with stress and managements and techniques and strategies in utilizing what is best in order for you to be regulated. And we can put that in too.
We'll put them all in.
Yes. All right. Do you feel lighter for having
No,
discussed
I'm so
this? No?
frustrated
Okay.
by this because I think too, like I could talk about this for a long time and I know we're at the end and I need to stop talking about it. But the other thing is, just because you have a day where you're dysregulated doesn't mean you're a failure at resiliency. It isn't all or nothing.
No, because it's lifelong. It's lifelong. And you cannot ride the high for the rest of your life.
And there's going to be a threshold where you just can't be more resilient than you are. Everybody's tipping point for emotional regulation is going to be different. So you are working on resiliency every time you're working on your key components. You're not going out and going, I'm going to work on being more resilient today. No, that's not how it works. You work on emotional regulation, de-stressing, all of those kinds of things. And that in turn builds your resiliency as part of it. So no, you don't say anything, you need to work on being more resilient. No, I have taken on enough. Thank you.
I think the conversation needs to be around the language used for resiliency. I think you would be less offended and say, hey, Kim, would you like to kind of go out and expose yourself to this a little bit more in order to build your resiliency towards this particular task or this particular.
But that's not resiliency, it's desensitization.
But slowly building that desensitization, because you're going to start using your other skills that you have in order to become more desensitized to one thing and build better resiliency.
Resiliency is after the trauma has been done, how fast you bounce back. Desensitization is so that you don't experience an event as traumatic anymore.
Yes, but we're going to build that.
So right. I'm not talking about working on desensitization. And also, no one should be telling me to work on desensitization. I do it every day.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Also, probably a little bit of demand avoidance. Don't tell me what to do.
What I never tell you what to do.
I know, but I'm just saying, not you, not just say specifically.
I know, it's okay. I know you. I just come in and do things anyway. I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. So, and you're like, oh God, here comes the Tasmanian devil. But I do know that when I'm there, you go, I get to go unplug because guess what? The Marshal has it under control.
Hey, she's got the kids. My responsibility level has just decreased. I'm going to go do something else. Yes.
Yeah. So I do know that, you have that, that when the kids are with me, they're good.
Yes.
So yeah, they're good. So my stress level goes up, but yours comes down.
You enjoy it though.
Yeah, I do. So I think we've talked about two different components here. We've talked about desensitization and resiliency, and the language around that really needs to change in order for people to understand that and put those strategies far more into effective, understanding, and use this as an opportunity to say life is a marathon and do what you can when you can. That's it.
All right. Well, I really appreciate anyone who's actually gotten to the end, because I think this was probably a little bit longer because I needed to rant a lot. So thank you. If you haven't already, I appreciate if you like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. And we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Well, have a great day. And thank you for always supporting us.
Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.